Greetings and welcome to the performance test of Grand Theft Auto 5 running on the Lenovo Y510P. My specs are as follows. I have an Intel Core i7 4700MQ, 8GB of DDR3 RAM, and a dual 755Ms or 755M SLI video card configuration. We'll be running the game at optimal settings, or settings that I've found to allow the machine to maintain a static 60 FPS. And then for the sake of it, we'll run it at all ultra settings just to see how it performs, just theoretically, just for the sake of it. I'll be recording this with my camera in order to be as accurate as possible, as using a screen recording software like Fraps usually consumes CPU and disk usage, so I'll refrain from that and record it with a camera. Alright, I'll see you. Not physically, but you'll see my display. Bye. For now.
Hello and welcome to Grand Theft Auto 5. A couple of things. Firstly, I attempted to reduce the screen flickering because of course I'm recording with a camera, so it is extremely difficult to minimize this, but I've tried, so hopefully I've kept it to a minimum. And secondly, wow. And secondly, I really don't have a secondly. This is Grand Theft Auto 5. I just completed, well, I'm with Franklin right now, so I'm about 45 minutes in, so I'm essentially free roaming. This is the stage at which the game is, I suppose, structured for you to explore. This is the part, precisely. The Fraps FPS counter is in the upper left-hand corner for monitoring performance. The refresh rate is set at 59 Hz, that's why it is stuck at 59. I enabled VSync, so it only maxes out at 59 FPS. Otherwise, if I had VSync disabled, screen tearing would ensue, and it's horrible. The screen tearing, it's very, very noticeable. It's not subtle in the slightest. Did we pull that off? Yes, we did. Oh, very closely. We managed to bust a light, but in the process, I think that's a success. Right now, you see it's a solid 59 FPS. No complaints here. There are occasional stutters, however, I think that can be resolved by just toning a few settings down, and those are so infrequent that it's not worth it at this point. Okay, that was odd. It dropped a couple of frames. Sometimes when collisions occur, the FPS does drop, maybe by 3 or 4. That is because particles are introduced on the display, thereby decreasing the frame rate. As you can see, that caused a frame dip of 1, but still, it's noticeable. Alright, I've switched cars, still maintaining a rather steady... never mind. Oh, I take that back. Oh, it went down to 54 FPS for reasons unknown, although I could I would assume that it was because of maybe the number of cars on the screen. I'm not entirely sure, but okay, that fluctuated a bit. Okay, lowest was 53 thus far. It's still playable, as long as it's above 48. That's playable, at least in my book, in the book of rulings of things that are playable or not. Well, oops. Alright, let's take a look at the settings very briefly. I think I killed him. So the thing with Grand Theft Autos, especially I suppose with Grand Theft Auto 5, there is a suggestion of settings that should be applied based on your video memory. However, that's a lie. Although each card is 755M with 2 gigs of video memory, so this game automatically assumes that since I have 2 cards with 2 gigs, that equals 4 gigs. That is not necessarily correct. That's not how SLI works. So these are my optimal settings. These deliver a static 60 FPS, of course with minor fluctuations in frame rate, but honestly it doesn't bother me too much. But this is rather stable. So I have FXAA enabled. MSAA is an FPS hitter, so this does tank your FPS significantly. I'd say by 8 or 9, which yeah, it's not really excusable, so I'd leave it off as much as I'd like to keep it on for anti-aliasing purposes, because that's what this game desperately needs. FXAA is not sufficient enough, to be quite honest. VSync is enabled just for purposes of avoiding screen tearing, at which this game is horrible at preventing with VSync off. So I have distance scaling, or view distance, turned all the way down just to avoid major fluctuations in frame rate. And if this is maxed out, you don't really experience that much of an advantage, just because pop-in is still evident at maximum settings, or the maximum settings, so it's not really worth the trade-off, at least for me. Texture quality is set to high. There's an option of very high. However, very high leads to I don't know, when textures are rendered at very high, it does affect the FPS. Shader quality is set to max. Shadow quality is set to normal. I could set it higher if I wanted to, but I'm fine with normal. I guess I'm content with it. Reflection quality is at high. If it's at normal, it's insufficient. It just looks really bad. So I'd leave it at high. Water quality is at very high. I seldom encounter water, but if I ever do, I have the advantage of having it at very high quality. Then we have particles quality set to normal, so whenever collisions occur, my FPS does not drop by like 20, so or explosions or anything else in that arena. Then we have grass quality set to very high, post effects set to normal. I love motion blur. However, if I set this to high, very high, or ultra, the difference between them is very infinitesimal, so I'm just grouping them into one. If I set that to, let's say if I set this to ultra, it would alter my FPS from, let's say, 59 FPS to 56, so it's not always a steady 60, and that really blows because I love motion blur, and it does really enhance the visual experience. So unfortunately I keep it at normal, but at least I'm getting a rather steady 60 FPS. Then we have ambient occlusion set to normal and tessellation set to high, although if I set these both to ultra it wouldn't really matter. I just like keeping it, I just like playing it safe, I suppose. I guess that's the best way to put it. Yeah, sure. Let's continue playing for maybe a minute more, and then we'll take a look at maximum settings, just to keep it interesting. Let's see if we can get into something, maybe a little bit of a car chase or something of the sort. Oh, this is very unfortunate. Oh no. No police? Seriously? Alright, that's fine by me, I suppose. Ugh. No. Dude, come on. Fight me back. Stand up for yourself or your wife. Oh, ouch. No. I need that. Ugh, never mind. There we go. There's a motorcycle over there. Let's take that. I do not have a gun. Oh. I'll take that back. I do. Copyright. No thank you. Yeah. And I've noticed in GTA 5 that it's much easier to die than it is in GTA 4, unfortunately. Luckily, this is still maintaining a steady 60. Ouch. Back on the horsey. No, I'm just, ew, disgusting. It's a motorcycle. I'm not implying that horses are disgusting. I just thought that had a sort of sexual connotation, and now I'm really regretting what I'm saying, and I'm really regretting that. Alright, I think that settles that. Performs well in medium to high settings, mostly high, so that's good. That's swell. So let's take a look at all ultra. Get ready for your eyes to burn. Alright, and we've returned. Everything's been set to ultra, or very high in most circumstances, because I believe that's the maximum for most of them, which is odd. You'd think they'd go all out and just name their maximum settings ultra, but no, they're very high instead. Alright, so we're getting 19, 20, 18, yeah, we're getting approximately, I'd say, 20 FPS, 19, 20 FPS. It's not horrible, but I wouldn't say it's playable. Maybe for somebody, maybe for a PS4 owner, perhaps, but the fact that this is an SLI setup means that micro stuttering is rampant, which means that there's stuttering within stuttering, if you're not familiar. So, should we drive? I'm afraid. So I wouldn't deem it unplayable, I just say it's borderline unplayable. 2021-22, this isn't atrocious, but then again, I definitely wouldn't voluntarily play with these settings. It does look better, of course, than the previous configuration, or the previous configuration, but not exponentially so. Like, the difference between my setup, or my optimal setup, and this, it is noticeable, but it's not like extremely noticeable to the point where I'm to the point of anguish, I guess. Ouch. Like, the mediocre frame rate does make the car a bit difficult to control, but other than that, it's not horrible. It's just that the game, for these ultra settings, the game just doesn't look so much better than the settings that I previously had it at. Like, I had it at like medium high, and this looks better, but just simply not that much better. So I guess that's a good thing, since that means I'm not missing out on too much. The game still looks very nice, though, undoubtedly, but I'm just saying, it's not like a night and day. It's more like afternoon and early evening. Horrible analogy. So yeah, if you have a 755 MSLI Wi-Fi 10P, go ahead and get GTA 5. It's not bad. It runs well, and you could possibly run it on high settings at like 50 FPS, or medium high at a solid 60. It's good. It runs well, and GTA 5 is a very good PC port. Options wise and performance wise, it's very good. If we turn MSAA off, let's just see. There's a 10 there's like, wow, I could play at a solid 30. Wow, that is a difference. So if I disable MSAA, I can play this at a steady 30 FPS. That is something. Alright, so what's the moral of the story here? Grand Theft Auto 5 runs well on the Lenovo Wi-Fi 10B at medium to high settings. If you don't mind 30 FPS, you can even crank the settings up to ultra. Just be sure you have that darn MSAA disabled, and you'll be fine. But also keep in mind that the Lenovo Wi-Fi 10P with the SLI configuration does have the tendency to overheat. So if you're playing it at ultra, be warned. You may experience occasional crashes just due to the sheer stress that's being put on your GPU, which thereby would overheat it, and oh no, that would make for a rather frustrating gaming experience. But it is possible to play at ultra just with MSAA disabled, and if you don't mind 30 FPS. But personally, I prefer 60. I cannot play it at 30, so I'm content with medium high settings, or the optimal setup that you saw in the video. That's it. If you have a single 755M, you could probably play this at medium settings. Maybe you'd have to crank some down to their minimal settings. It's still playable, I'd say, on a single GT 755M. I accidentally played it with SLI disabled. I did notice a significant frame decrease, of course, but it wasn't anything that was deterring, so it still works. I have to give props to Rockstar for making a well-optimized PC port. But that is it for the video, for this analysis / breakdown of Grand Theft Auto 5's performance on the Lenovo Wi-Fi 10P. Thank you for watching. If you like what you see, subscribe. I make different things. I make videos, and I think that's what that's what people upload to YouTube, right? Yeah. Well, at least I do. So that's the selling point right there. All right, adios, muchachos. That was unnatural. I apologize. You've just been Evelyn Design 9. There we go. Bye bye.